I'd like to welcome to the Love in Reality podcast for Million Dollar Secret. Chris Allen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Happy to be here, Ricky.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you. The show's kind of taken the world by a storm. I think even surprised many people, maybe even in Netflix, you know what I mean? How it's really rose the ranks in that top 10 and kind of stayed in there over the last few weeks. And I expect it to continue to do so. But before we get into anything about that, let's take everyone back before the show. Tell us about Chris the person that we didn't really probably get to see a whole lot of on Million Dollar Secret.
Yeah, you didn't get to see too much of my backstory. So I am a finance guy by trade. I have kind of a traditional finance career. I studied accounting and finance in college. Went through sort of the typical work your way up, Wall Street type jobs. Totally burned myself out. I was totally burned out by like 27 years old, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this for the rest of my life. And at 27, I quit the finance world and I went back to business school full time. And I was like, basically, I just want to figure out what I want to do with my life. Like, what do I want to do when I grow up? I know I'm 27, but I need to figure that out. So I went back, really had no idea. And I started working with startups. I worked for a clothing company called Faraday Brand. And while I was there, I met a fellow student of mine who's a son of Uruguayan immigrants and grew up drinking coconut water right around the time that White Claw was just blowing up and seltzer was becoming this huge, huge thing, spike seltzer. And he's like, I grew up drinking coconut water. In South America, people used to just literally pour alcohol into coconuts and they would drink out of it, right? So why don't we take coconut water, do what seltzer's doing, and kind of like bring that to market? Would you want to do that with me? I come from a family of alcohol distributors, so I was like, yeah, that sounds a lot more fun than crunching numbers all day. Like, let's do it. I mean, drinking alcohol is like a super sexy industry. So yeah, we kind of went full bore. I didn't know if that was going to be the only thing that I did, but then COVID hit and I was like, yeah, I only have one life. Like, I'm going to go try to start a company of my own. Like, let's go in full bore. So we did that for 3, 4 years. And, one thing that's really cool about running a company, especially having a really good co-founder, is you have a lot of flexibility in your life to do certain things. And I started seeing that, companies owned by celebrities were doing really well. And I was like, what if I could get on a reality show? And started casting for shows. It took me a little while. And I'd actually kind of given up on it until 2024 when Million Dollar Secret came calling, and I was like, oh, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Like, what an amazing opportunity to A, showcase my personality, B, have some fun, and just like accrue a really, really cool life experience. So when they asked me to be on the show, it took me about 15 nanoseconds. I was like, yeah, I'm in.
You're like, lock me in, you know what I mean?
Please,
Let
just like book my plane ticket. I'm ready to go.
just let me know where I need to go. All right, so as you find out about the show and kind of the premise of the show, what's kind of your strategy heading into the game before you really even get into that house?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny is we didn't really know what game we were playing when we showed up. We knew what the prize was, and we learned about the rules of the game for the first time on camera when Peter told us what game we were playing. So Million Dollar Secret is such an interesting game. I think it's why people have resonated with it so much, because it could, in essence, just be like any other alliance game where, like, you just kind of wait to see the money move at the end of the game, and you just basically play Big Brother, Survivor, whatever you want to call it, and just kind of like vote out other people and wait till you get to the end. But ultimately, I kind of wanted to say, let me learn as much as I can about these people so I can understand when they're acting off, when they're acting weird. B, form a good alliance as a backbone, because in the event that we didn't know where the money was, I was worried that basically Big Brother was going to break out, and I wanted to be on the right side of the numbers, right? And then C was, I genuinely, in most cases, there's a couple exceptions, tried to find the millionaire and try to get the money moving. Because I'm like, the money moving around as many times as possible means that there's a good chance it can come to me. And I want to try my hand at it. Like, if I can get the money and I can go on a run, that's the best way I can win the game. So those were basically the ways that I wanted to play it.
As you learn about these secret agendas of the millionaire, right? Do you have to shift your strategy to almost be alert and aware at like all times?
Yeah, totally. And what really changed the game for me is, like, when we showed up, I thought that I would be an observant player. And I think at points during the season, I really was. But what really got me was when Lauren came out and said that she was the first millionaire and that she had sort of this music challenge, right? And she had run Every Rose Has Its Thorn by me in casual conversation. I was like, okay, I remember I had a conversation with Corey, I don't think made it into the show, where I was like, okay, whatever level of vigilance we had, we got to take that way up. Like, I mean, we were tired, we were stressed, things were getting by us, right? So I'm like, I have to be on a different level at this point. So yeah, we were looking at everything. And as we were learning more what the agendas were, we kind of knew what to look for the further the season went along. So yeah, I was scanning the room and looking at as many things as I possibly could especially as the season went on.
Yeah, because you even have that hilarious moment where you're in the middle of that eating competition, you accidentally pick the plate up, and everybody's like, "Is that an agenda?" Like that could, because at the end of the
That
day,
was
that really could have been. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, and what was so funny about it too is when the season first started, we were all terrified of doing anything because we didn't know what we were looking for. So everybody was super quiet in that first episode because we were like, if I breathe wrong, I mean, like you guys remember, Lauren was convinced Sydney was the millionaire because she was breathing a certain way. Like you were really, really convinced. And I remember early on in the season, you're sleeping in a different room than you're used to, right? I had a really bad night of sleep. I think maybe like the second night we were there, and I was super tired. And I was like, okay, like you got to bring the energy level up, man, because they're going to be like, Chris is really quiet. Oh my God, he might be the millionaire, right? We were looking at everything. So yeah, when I flipped the plate up, I was like, I was already kind of like under consideration at that point. I was like, I might be cooked for something stupid. You know what I mean? Like really, it's just really dumb. I got caught up in some trash talk and I could feel like Corey's eyes over my shoulder. Like, what's this guy up to?
Yeah, it was hilarious to watch because it was like I didn't even really think about it until somebody said it. But I was like, I could see it was obviously as a viewer, you already know that's not the agenda, but you could see that you're just kind of caught up in all the oomph of it. Another interesting thing about it is obviously is you were one of the first people to get into that trophy room. I think the second per se, but
Yeah.
to get a clue. How
Mhm.
long, and this is just kind of like a behind the scenes aspect of it.
Yeah.
How long from when you get the clue to letting everyone know about the clue to figure out whether you were going to be honest about it, about what happened inside there?
Ricky, it's a shockingly small amount of time. So like even at later points in the season, I know some people did like Corey, turned his agenda into a clue. Sydney made up a clue, right? Um, I'm amazed that they were able to do that because it really is a short period of time. Like I talked to Peter, I was shuffled upstairs, and basically I was like, well, I don't have a better idea, so I'm gonna tell him what I heard. At this point, and there is a really critical piece of this where I think early on in the house, Corey especially, but myself as well, were really adamant that we needed to preserve trust among the group as long as possible, because once we saw that people were starting to play shady games, it would just turn into madness. So I was really, really adamant going in there. Unless I had an opportunity to really play a huge advantage, I was just going to tell him what's up. Um, and I thought the clue, I'm like, how am I going to twist this around? I don't really have any one particular person I want out. Like, let's just play the group game. We'll be strong, 11 versus 1, give people the information. And I thought that they would respect me more for doing it. And part of what I wanted to do was build up some credibility so that later in the game, if I got the money, I would have some respect and I would be able to lie and do it under the radar.
For sure. You mentioned a little bit earlier, but when Lauren revealed she was the millionaire after the money was moved, did that shock you that she kind of decided to out herself like that?
No, it didn't shock me. You could see, I mean, Lauren was an incredible millionaire. Like, I mean, everybody watching the show basically saw she completed all of her agendas. Um, she, was able to evade 2 votes. I was pretty convinced by the end of the second episode that Lauren had it, right? I said so to Peter in the trophy room. Um, it didn't shock me that she did that. It also didn't shock me that she said it because Lauren, you guys are learning a lot more about Lauren. Amazing person. I don't think that she had the capacity to continue to play that game of lies. She just, you could see it was wearing on her. She'd also just seen her best friend go home at her expense. So it didn't shock me at all. But yeah, it was just kind of a turning point in the whole season.
Yeah, let's talk about one of those millionaire kill shots, right? The kill shot on Lydia. Take us behind what's the vibe at the table because nobody saw that coming, right? Everybody's sitting at the table. The last person, I think, as a viewer too, watching it, I was like, wait, did I hear that right? Take us through the vibe at the table as it happens and maybe even just what happened a little bit after.
Yeah, we had been kind of here. Peter had been hinting that the millionaire was getting stronger as the game went on, but we didn't know what that meant, right? Another thing, like from the contestant's perspective, we did not know that a kill shot was in play, right? So I'm actually pretty glad that I told Lydia that I was thinking about Sam and that she went and told Sam that, because I think it spared me from the kill shot, right? I was pretty sure pretty early on that Sam had the money. There was something about the way she was talking that I'm like, this is probably the quickest one that I got to. I'm like, I just have a pretty good feeling that she has it. Um, I didn't know that Lydia had gone and told Sam that I was thinking about her. I thought maybe like Sam would have implied me. We were all basically preparing for Sydney to go home, right? Like, I mean, she wore her goodbye dress, the diamond dress, right? I was convinced that she was going home. Obviously, I was sad about it. Like, I mean, she was like probably the closest person to me in the game. I was pretty upset that she was going to go home. And then when the kill shot came out and it was Lydia, we were shocked. I mean, we were completely stunned. And when Peter told us the kill shot was coming, I was packing up my bags. I mean, I really was. I was like, oh God, like this is coming for me. All this time I've been preparing for Sydney to go home. You know, we're sitting here crying next to each other, holding hands, and like it's going to be me that goes home, not her. So when it was Lydia, you know, I had to start thinking through like, how does this fit into Sam being the millionaire? Because I was sure, but not completely sure.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing for me, and it was an interesting dynamic there because even talking to Sam, she was like, "I wanted to go after Chris, but obviously, if she kill shots you there, the target's right back on her, right? You know what I mean?" And as she
Yep.
even said, she knew that you had an inkling of it being her. That's and you talk a little bit about it, but was there anything she did or how she played? Because you were like the first person on
Yeah.
Sam, like you were the first person, and you stayed on Sam on up until you were eliminated there.
Yep. Yeah, there's one thing, Ricky, that I stood by in this game the entire time, which is a fundamental like psychological belief I have about people, which is that if they're forced to lie, they're gonna skirt around the lie, and they're going to like do whatever they can to avoid saying a direct lie. They're going to skirt around it. So with Lauren, what that meant was she would always kind of be like, I don't know, like I'm not sure. Who do you think has it? I don't know. I like everybody. You know, I mean, she was kind of just talking around things to avoid implicating other people. With Phil, he was wearing it a little bit. So it was a little bit more direct, I would say. With Sam, with the second we opened the boxes and she came back, I said something like, this is the first time that I wanted to have the money, right? Because I think with 8 people, you can just go on a run to the end of the game. And I said that straight up because I meant it. I was genuinely disappointed to have not gotten it. Cara was like, yeah, I still didn't want it, whatever. And Sam was kind of like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, definitely. She was kind of just like, she just kind of mumbled something and like looked off in the distance. I was like, what was that? That's cool. What kind of answer was that, Sam? Like she, you know, Sam and I, we obviously went head to head in the game a lot. She's very talkative, and I am too. So like, I was like, it's kind of looking. I think she said something like, "I've never been more motivated to get that person out than I am now." And I was like, yeah, that's not what I asked you. Like, as you know what I mean. So like, uh, something about her energy and her body language. I didn't think I was intuitive. I thought I'd be more of like a logical player, but I could just tell right away. I'm like, this is probably the most sure I've been right off the rip that this is the person that had it in terms of an energy shift.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, and credit to you, obviously, for pinpointing that. And then we're going to follow it up with a question about one of the biggest question marks from the season is why you decided to lie about voting for Sydney. Take us
Yeah.
behind the idea here and what was going through
Yeah.
your head.
Yeah. I mean, you talked to 11 people in the game who didn't win. We all made $1 million mistake, right? That was easily mine. And to be honest with you, I kind of knew it was almost immediately, right? So just kind of take you through the process of how that went. That was really the first time that we kind of just went right back into gameplay after an elimination dinner. Like usually that would be kind of the end of the day. Um, we were stunned by the kill shot, shell shocked, and we go right in. And I wasn't preparing for Kyle to say, "Hey, everybody, say who you voted for," right? So I'm thinking in my head, split second decision. I have 3 options. One is I go at Sam straight up and in the open, but we had seen kill shots repeated, or not kill shot. We'd seen millionaire advantages repeated, right? So I'm like, okay, people have been able to move the money twice. What if there's another kill shot coming? Maybe not this round, but the next round. I better not go at the millionaire straight up and just be like, I'm going at you in the open, right? Number two was I could just throw my vote for Sydney because she had one foot out the door, right? The votes were well against her, you know. Um, and then number three was I could have said I voted for Lydia. She wasn't there, but the problem is if I did that, that was who the millionaire voted for. So I would have been kind of stepping into that pool that got Jamie in trouble, right? So I made a split second decision and said, I don't want to go at Sam in the open. I think Sydney will respect the decision that I made. And I think that with the relationship that we built in the game, I can kind of win her back over and explain it to her, right? Obviously, it was completely the wrong decision. What I didn't expect was A, that I was going to be in the firing line for the next elimination, B, that I wasn't going to be able to get Sydney back on my side, and C, that there wasn't going to be another kill shot, right? It would have been way smarter for me to just go at Sam and also recognize that if I was so open about it, she wouldn't kill shot me anyway, because they'd be like, oh, it's automatically invoking myself as the millionaire. If I go at the guy who's going at me and I kill shot him, they'd be like, it's you. You did it. I know you did. So, yeah, I mean, and what's funny is that I don't think they showed my face on camera, but like when I looked and I saw how Sydney reacted to me saying that, I was like, I'm in trouble. Like that was a huge mistake.
Yeah, and when you think about it, honestly, the next agenda is what eliminated you, the double vote. You had two votes in the favor of the millionaire, which
Yep.
ultimately took you out of the game anyway. So
Yep.
how you felt in the moment is exactly how it played out. You're right. I mean, obviously calling out Sam's a little bit different because if you get the double vote there and you do get eliminated, it's like, oh, the fingers pointed right at Sam.
Yep. Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about that final roundtable before the elimination, right? We see you kind of get a little emotional. You defend
Yep.
yourself. What's going through your head? Why did it feel kind of so emotional there for you?
Ricky, I really wasn't expecting to get emotional on the show. I really wasn't. And like, I think when Phil went home, I was kind of teary eyed as we all were. That was, at the end of a long week of filming, and we were all kind of emotionally spent at that point. And I said, I can't remember the last time I cried about anything. And that was true. And then basically from that point forward, I just cried like the entire rest of the show. Like I was like, my emotions were raw at that point. At my dinner, what made it so emotional for me was I had spent a lot of time in the game defending my alliance, right? I've been on the side of voting to get Lauren out instead of Sydney, voting to catch the millionaire with Phil instead of doing the like anarchy move of getting Sydney out there, right? And I had been pretty rock solid with my alliance, with the exception of throwing my vote for Sydney, right? That was really the first time that I had started to fray. And that was why it was a big mistake. What really got to me was I was upset that I was obviously being falsely accused. But what hurt was when Corey genuinely looked me in the eye and said he believed that I was lying to him, because Corey was, and they didn't show this too much in the show, my closest ally in the game pretty much the entire way. And I was so frustrated because I knew Corey genuinely wanted to find the millionaire. I knew I wasn't it. And I also knew that I was kind of out of options to prove to him that I didn't have it, because I had essentially kind of screwed myself with the fun fact that I told about getting a police escort. Because now the one thing that I can say, like, of all of the fun facts that I could have chosen, I chose this fun fact. It's like, why did you do that? Right. Because now I can't be like, guys, Sam said one of my cop friends took a lie detector test. That's not what you say if you have a friend who's a cop. You say one of my friends who's a cop, right? But they're like, yeah, but you said the thing about the police escort. And I'm like, you're right. That's a good point. There's nothing I can really say to that. So Corey had his mind dead set on it. And what really got me so emotional is I'm like, man, this is like, this is a guy who I've been side by side with. He genuinely believes it's me, and I can't prove it otherwise. I'm so frustrated that I just broke down in tears.
Yeah, and when you're watching it back, right? Is it interesting to see? You didn't know obviously in that moment that obviously the double vote is what got you out, right? So watching it back, was it interesting to see that it was in fact the double vote that got you out there?
So I was doing the math in my head, and I knew that I could get the sense that Corey and Kara were going to vote together at that dinner. I was pretty convinced that I hadn't gotten Sydney. Even though she said at this point I'm voting Sam, I had a feeling she was going to vote for me in the end when the cards came out. Obviously, Sam was going to vote for me. I didn't really know what Jamie was going to do. I wasn't sure. She wasn't really like super open with what she was going to do at that dinner, and I knew Kyle was on my court. Like I knew that 100%. So I was kind of doing the math in my head, didn't know about the double vote. I said, I think I need Corey and Cara both in order to win this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was definitely because again, there was so many times. I mean, if we watch when you watch it back, and I even talked to Sydney about it, it was like Sydney almost had 9 lives because there was like 2 scenarios where she would have been eliminated had X, Y, or Z not have happened.
Totally. Yeah. No.
All right, so you watch episode 7 and 8 like us, right? You're a viewer watching it at home. Take us through what it was like watching that back, including in my opinion, probably the most pivotal moment of the entire season was when Sam looks at Kara and says, "How many sisters do you have?" And she was just like, and I asked Sam about this. She's like, it was so fast that you don't even think twice about it, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would have loved to have played in that part of the game because it would have been fun to, you know, see if I could detect energy again. I really didn't know that I had the ability to do that, but um, with Kara, it's really tough, right? Like, I mean, because Kara is, you guys all watch the show. She's like one of the quietest players in the game, right? So you can't be like, oh, we got the boxes and Kara's being really quiet, right? That was kind of in the norm for her. You would have had to see other things. Like, is she wearing it on her face? Like, is she, making a nervous tick or sweating or like just looking for little things like that? What is so interesting about that is not only did she tell the lie about her sister, not knowing that that was going to be what essentially kind of won her the game, but also she told the lie in a way that was really easy to cover up, right? Because if you have two sisters and you say I have no sisters, right? It's a little. If you say you have three sisters, then you have to invent a sister, right? If you say you have one sister, like let's say I have two younger sisters and I say I have one, I just talk about one of them. Like, what's her name? You know, okay, I can actually tell you about this person. I just pretend the other sister doesn't exist, right? So it was brilliantly constructed. I mean, like the way she did it, it was easy for her to kind of like, if she got pressed on follow up, she could have easily gone through it. I don't know what it was that, in her intuition that told her to say that, but it was brilliant.
Yeah, she just said that she knew that something was going to be asked of something because there was, obviously there's always a secret agenda going around on top of the agenda, and
Yeah.
she wasn't sure of that. So we're watching the final moment, right? With the conversations are happening. Finally, the two people that didn't believe that Kara had the money realized Kara actually did have the have the money.
Yeah.
Sam's obviously having to play like that was hard. Now she even said it was hard. She just had to sit there. You had
You just
nothing to
hope
do.
hope they make a mistake and the money ends up with you at that
Right,
point, basically.
exactly. So what was it like watching it to see the winner crowned?
Well, you know what was so funny about it too is like that was obviously in the trophy room. I was there just a couple days before that was all happening. And like I knew the way we all felt. I know the way I felt is when you walk in that room with the candles up and Peter there, your heart is beating out of your chest. It is like so stressful. I mean, it's a level of stress that I have never felt before, right? I literally think I would have been sick. I literally think I would have been sick in the room. Like my heart was beating out of my chest. It's such a gamble. Like it's such a gamble the way that the game ends. You're basically just kind of playing a bluff game with people. And obviously for Sam, she doesn't have to do anything, so it's a little bit easier. But just the whole setup with Peter there and the way that they did it with switching turns, going down the stairs into the trophy room. As a viewer, I was, and obviously I know these people, right? Like Corey was my main ally in the game. Like I know what this money means to him. I know what the money means to Kara. I know what it means to Sam. I'm like genuinely emotionally invested in these people that I now call friends, right? So I was, I felt like I was there. I felt like I was there.
Yeah, I mean, same as I'm watching it, but it's incredible because obviously Akara makes how hard Corey goes after Sam turn that trigger in Kara's head to maybe think, all right, maybe he's doing this on purpose, and then of course she switches the boxes back, which ultimately
Yep.
leads her to winning. Talk to me about her winning and seeing that happen.
I mean, it's so interesting too because ultimately the game kind of rested on two people who were close in the game and were close allies, close confidants, trusted each other, I think, up until they didn't need to anymore. Right. And I think about this like from my own perspective, like how would that have been if I was in that scenario having to play up against Corey or if I was playing against Sydney, for example, in the final two? Like, because I know Corey and Kara were tight and were like really close confidants in the game. And it's like, you have this person, you've only known each other for a few weeks, but you're kind of like, how well do I know them? Like, do I trust my instincts? Um, do I do I throw all that out the window and just like think that they're playing me, right? Like you're how much do I really know about this person in this critical moment of my life?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, the whole show is based on lying. You know what I mean? Like, not revealing a whole lot about yourself. And even if you do, you have to be cautious of what you reveal. Because again, your one fun fact ultimately led to you being, that person. And even Corey, like, he almost got eliminated by having the two sisters. But Jamie revealing earlier in the game that she had two
Doing some yoga,
sisters.
doing some yoga,
Yeah.
just basically just making small talk, doing yoga. Yeah.
Yeah, and it ultimately leads to your elimination. I love Peter, right? Fun host. I thought he had some great one-liners. Tell us a little bit about your interactions with him.
One of the highlights of the show for me was Peter being there. I mean, he was great before the takes. He was great during the takes. His voice and like his just like he has like an air about him, like and you're like, oh yeah, that guy's in movies. Like you can just feel it when he walks in the room. His outfits were amazing. Honestly, to be quite honest with you, I wanted to get the clue in the trophy room every time I was in there, just because I could get a one-on-one scene with Peter and kind of like do some banter with him. And those moments were like super cool. So I think pretty much all of us loved the fact that he was the host. Have followed his career since. I mean, I went back and watched like his entire filmography. And yeah, I think he's going to be a great spokesperson for this franchise as it goes forward.
Yeah, I agree. He was just fun, and he was so quick with it. And what shocked me, even like whenever we watched the finale, and they're like, when it was like, oh, she has two sisters, and like Sam was like all shocked. He's like, well, you lied about being a cop. You know what I mean? It was just so like boom,
Yeah,
boom, and it's just
I was
crazy.
especially I was especially glad he closed the season with that because I was like, yeah, she was not me.
Exactly. Exactly. I called this. I knew it.
I
Damn
knew it.
it. Was there a moment that you had wished was shown that wasn't?
Um, Let me think about that for a second. There are a couple.
Because obviously, as we watch reality TV, thousands of hours filmed and all of that stuff, and they're
Yeah, I want to make sure I give you a good answer. Yeah, you know what? I do. I do. There is one that I wish was shown. A lot of people have been making comments about me sort of unilaterally declaring myself a leader of the house. I want to clarify that that wasn't unilateral. I didn't declare myself the leader of the house. During Phil's dinner, he kind of pushed back on those who were following me into the decision to vote him out. And he said that he called me the chairman of the board of the game, right? And he said, like, basically, I call him the chairman of the board because he speaks and people do like follow. So I wish that was shown because it gives a little more credibility. Because otherwise, I look like I'm just like put the crown on my own head, and I'm like, Chris is the leader. No, like it was something that actually was kind of put on me by another contestant, and I did feel like that was a little bit of a weight and a little bit of a target on my back, but also something that I took a lot of pride in. I mean, especially with some of the other players in the game who had taken on the leadership role of taking a clue early on. Like I think about leadership, like I think Corey had a big leadership role too in going after the millionaire when we knew Phil had it, in taking a clue in the trophy room and telling the truth even when it implicated him. So like leadership is shared in the house. But yeah, I didn't declare myself the leader of the house. It was actually something that was put on me that didn't make it into the show.
Oh, that's good to know. That's some real good clarity there as well.
But
With you obviously now being in the Netflix reality universe, have you been approached about any other shows or are there any shows that you are eyeing that you would like to be on?
yeah, two answers to your question. No, I have not been approached. Yes, I am very open to doing more. And the show that I want to do is Battle Camp. I mean, like when I saw the trailer for Battle Camp, I was like, hell yeah, that is exactly the kind of show that I want to do. I was kind of like a child of Nickelodeon game shows growing up, and like, Guts and Legends of the Hidden Temple, things like that. So when I saw that, I was like, I need to be on that.
You're like,
So
call me, please.
yeah, and I love the challenges. Like I think the challenges is a really fun part. I obviously had some pretty boneheaded spots in the challenges, but I also think some of them I was pretty good at. So I think it could be a good show, a good fit for my strengths.
All right, with $1 Million Secret winding down, what's next for Chris?
I got all sorts of things going on, but I also don't necessarily know what direction I'm going to take them. Right now, it's kind of like the wind is just hitting us in the face, and we're just trying to stay standing upright. Obviously, I have my beverage business. I have a beverage consulting business as well, so I'm doing a lot of consulting work at the moment. But obviously, one of the really cool things is when you're on a platform that's this big, is you can attract a lot of people that see you as like-minded, right? So with me being a business owner and somebody that's frankly struggled in business at times too, right? That's part of the reason that I was able to go on the show. Is I've attracted a lot of people who have their own business, who have dreams of starting their own business, and kind of saw in my story something representative of themselves. So what I really want to do is use this platform to create content and create community to kind of bring people together around the concept of small business, entrepreneurship, and really my passion is like helping people achieve their dreams of running businesses in a way that is sustainable, and helps promote and maintain their mental and physical wellness, which is really, really hard to do.